The Wests Tigers podcast is brought to you by the Wests Tigers Podcast Forum. Join the conversation today at weststigerspodcast.com.au.
It's the West Tigers podcast. First one for 2026. Declan McCutcheon, Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to all the listeners. And was Santa good to you this year? Did you get any West Tigers related presents or anything of great note to mention on the pod?
Oh, look, I was going to get a West Tigers jersey from Santa for Christmas, but then unfortunately the Home and Barnes group decided to play silly bugger, so I decided to put a hold on that until we got more clarity. So I'm still yet to get the jersey, but got some other good stuff, so can't complain. And it's always good. It's a great time of year just to watch the cricket. You know, it's the good weather, live near the beach. So yeah, you can't really complain. Although I'm starting to miss footy, especially now that it's the new year and trials start very, very soon. So I'm starting to get the bug again. But yeah, can't wait.
Yeah, well, once you sort of start staring down Australia Day and the Australian Open, then you sort of know it's getting close. And I also feel a little bit more, although it's been a difficult off-season, once again, thanks Holman and Barnes Group, feeling a little bit renewed and a little bit more enthusiastic and invigorated than I was a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, it all went down there in December. I was out of the country when the rally was held, so unfortunately couldn't get along. But what were your observations? You made a speech, you were right in the thick of it. Was it how you expected it to sort of be? What are your takeaways from that rally held at Pratton Park in December?
Yeah, I thought it was a really good event. I think that Darcy Barnes, the organizer, and everyone involved did a really good job. I thought it was a really good atmosphere. Sometimes with fan-led protests, it can get a little bit nasty, but I thought that everyone did a really good job of protesting in a constructive way. It's a shame we weren't able to march, because there was a few complaints. So we ended up just doing the speeches and having the rally at the bowling club. So that was a little bit disappointing. But other than that, I thought it was a really good event. It was good to see all the people, because there was talk of other people coming from Perth to be part of the march, and then people trying to get to the march from hospital, even though they just had major surgery. So I think it showed just how dedicated a lot of West Tigers fans are, which is really good to see, which I think is really important just to show how much this club means to people, just and how decisions by the governing body, they do have quite a big impact on people like us, obviously, but then every fan who buys a jersey, comes to the games, also maybe just even watches it on TV because they live in a different state. So I think it just shows that there are stakeholders like the debenture holders, but then there's so many stakeholders at the club who don't have that financial interest. Well, they do have a financial interest, but it just means so much to them, so that they really have a duty to change these things so that they can best represent those fans. And then it was also just great to talk to people who listen to the podcast as well. So many people came up to me and said they'd listened to the podcast. I've got to give a shout out to Levi and Bailey. They said they're massive fans of the podcast. They say they listen to it before they go to bed whenever we release one. So thanks guys for listening to the podcast, and thanks for coming up to me. It was really cool. And then just so many people just said they're big fans of the podcast, and it was just good to chat footy as well. And someone else made a good point that it was actually a really good turnout, considering it was in December in the heat. It's not really prime footy season, so just to show and it was quite late notice. Obviously, things just happen so quickly. But it wasn't the event organisers had months and months and months to lead it up. So I think they did a great job, and then the fans responded really, really well as well by coming.
I wonder if, a bit of a question without notice, or I wanted to get your observations on this, because we come from slightly different backgrounds, i.e. I was obviously a fan of one of the foundation teams, and I was here from the start of the merger, when it all kicked off. And then I remember in those very, very early days that there was a lot of arguing and toing and froing going on among the fans about the two different foundation clubs that came together to form the West Tigers. And maybe because I was slightly removed from it all being overseas, when the rally was held and things. But I think the thing that stands out to me is there is still a division there between not all fans, but there's more division there than I thought there was, and more than I can logically get my mind around after 25 years. Like, it's not like we're 5 years into this merger, it's 25 years, and there's still people stoking the fires and still people that won't let it go. And it must be a little bit odd for you, Declan, as being somebody who came into the club and doesn't know it as anything other than you've got no affiliation with a foundation club.
Yeah, look, I think when I came and started supporting the club back in I think it was 2007, obviously we didn't know like the kind of like political background of the Magpies and Balmain, which led to them like joining. But and like we've since learned, that background, and yeah, it's very, very complicated. Especially since I like to your point, I don't really think that it's like a 50-50 split
No.
that's like the conflict. I think it's more like a 90-10 split conflict, and it's just unfortunate that that 10% just happens to be the most influential because they represent the majority stakeholders in the Home and Barns group, and that's the problem. Because because I've been doing this with the pod with you like a few years now, and like no one has ever come up to me and said like, oh, like bring back the Magpies, or like, geez, like how good it would be to see the Magpies come back into the NRL. Like it just doesn't happen. And then like back to the March, like there was a guy who was wearing a Balmain jersey, and he told me that after the March, he was actually going to buy his very first ever West Tigers jersey.
Yeah.
Because like just the unity show between the fans. So I think that like 99.95% of the fan base do genuinely want to move forward. And this kind of old Balmain Magpies division is like quite well, it's very like ancient history, and like the people who are kind of stoking the flames of this, they are like literally dinosaurs. And if you look, like, I don't want to like single anyone out in particular, but if you look at them on Facebook, they're always like older guys, and they're like 50s, 60s. It's no one like like 50 or below that's pushing this sort of stuff, and it's sad to see, because like unfortunately these people are quite influential at the club. But yeah, we just have to like continue to put pressure on them to get that corporate governance, that independent corporate governance that the club needs so badly.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, last point that I'll make on it, just, until the next storm, unfortunately, we have to be a little bit cynical about it all, is that if you don't have a deep affinity with the West Tigers, if it doesn't get your blood pumping, if it's something that you don't have that emotional connection with, then can you please just remove yourself from the club? Like, we don't want you. If your heart bleeds for Balmain or bleeds for West Magpies, then don't waste your time here, because all it's going to do is lead you to disappointment and heartbreak, because the West Tigers are not going anywhere, as fingers crossed, as far as we know. Yeah. It's not good for you. It's not good for us. And it's not good for the fans, the Declans and the thousands and thousands of other fans that have come along and know nothing but West Tigers.
Yeah, and like just with the Magpies, like kind of like the rumored campaign that there's an appetite from the Home and Barns group to push them back to the NRL. It's disappointing. Like obviously, like people have different backgrounds, and the Magpies clearly have an emotional connection to a lot of these people. And I like, who am I to say that that's like silly or invalid, because that's their experience. Like I'm sure they went to the footy with their families back at Lickham Oval,
Yeah.
so that obviously means a lot to them. So that's fine. I completely get that. But like when you talk about like being pragmatic, like the Magpies are never coming back to the NRL. It's either the West Tigers or nothing, because there's already too many Sydney teams in the market at the moment. Like you could make a pragmatic argument that one needs to relocate, or they need to start a new one in either like Queensland or New Zealand, because that would make strategic sense for the NRL. So it's not like Peter V'landys is going to like say, actually, no, we're going to bring back two essentially inner Sydney suburb teams where neither of them have like a really strong junior base, and there's not really much of a corporate like appetite to have them back. Like it just makes zero sense. So like it's such an emotional decision
Yeah.
that these people are clearly thinking about, but it's nothing in it is like based in practicality. And that's why it's so annoying, because it's quite dangerous. Instead of like, okay, this is what we have in the West Tigers, let's work to make this like a
Mm.
genuine giant of the NRL. No, like the kind of pipe dream that you're going to get the Magpies back playing is just ridiculous, and it's just it's such a waste of time and energy.
Well, I don't think that the Holman Barnes Group or the potential Western Suburbs Magpies corporate backing would ever be anywhere near enough to start or restart an NRL franchise like in this current environment. Like it's we're here because we're here from 1908 and we've ended up in this joint venture, and it's just never going to happen. So we need to cherish what we've got. And I think the thing that always sort of makes me a little bit sad about it all is that when we voted for the merger in 99, you see, there was that goodwill between Balmain and West. We weren't enemies. We'd never been enemies. We'd always been, healthy rivals. Rivals with Canterbury, rivals with Penrith and Parramatta and these other rivalries. But when we got offered that opportunity to merge, speaking from that Balmain perspective, and I'm sure it was the same for West and for many West members, it was seen as being, well, quite friendly. We were sort of like, well, we got no gripe with them, and they don't think they had any major gripes with us. So it just sort of made sense that there was that goodwill when we got together, and to see it continue on and the goodwill to, be squeezed out of it all of these years later. It's an interesting, it should be studied in universities about sports amalgamations. Interesting test case, but we've got to get on with it, because it's not about people that were there in 1999 and before that. It's about the people that have come along since then. And the sooner we get on board with that, the sooner we might all actually have something to enjoy again. Let's have a look at the story that won't go away, and that's Jareem Bula. Declan, there are some rumours. We've heard the rumours. We've seen the alleged photos of him at that Bulldogs game. The rumours that are doing the rounds at the moment are that Canterbury is sniffing around or want to do a deal with him. They've got to free up some space, apparently. They'd obviously have to come up with plenty of money to sign him. What does it mean to West Tigers, do you think, to get this Buller situation? I was going to say re-signing done. It might not be happening, but the Buller situation, getting it done and dusted one way or another.
Yeah, I think that, as we've said like many, many times on the podcast, I think although Dream Brilla, he's not like, I don't think he's got the ceiling of a Reece Walsh in terms of, being like an elite fullback. But I do think it's really, really important to keep him, because he just fits, like the skills he brings is just something that we really, really lack in the attack. And what, like, he took such a big step last season that when he wasn't playing, it was so noticeable that we just didn't have that kind of extra like swing person who could come in off the back of shape with speed and like a little bit of skill, who could play left and right, who could link up with both halves on both sides, and someone who's a threat in the air, especially in attack. His like defensive reads and his like defensive efforts might have went back a little bit compared to when he first came into the grade, which was a little bit disappointing. But just in terms of like how important his role is in the attack, I think it's really important to, yeah, as you said, either re-sign him or like obviously he's there for this season,
Yeah.
like no matter what. So if he does decide to go to the Bulldogs for whatever reason, we need clarity just so that we can try and find someone who could then step into those shoes, because I'm not really sure that we have it in the squad at the moment if he was to leave. Like I think we'd have to go external to replace him, and
Mm.
I think like that should be done like sooner rather than later to see what's on the market.
Well, we're going to know more when we see Attard play, the young fullback who was considered the next big thing at Penrith, and we've paid good money for him. And I don't see any logic for him to come to West Tigers to play long-term New South Wales Cup. I don't see why you'd do that to your career. There must be more to that than what meets the eye. Because wouldn't you just stay at Penrith if you've got Dylan Edwards, who's probably 5 or 6 years older at least than Buller? Like, it doesn't
Mm.
make any sense why a young player would come here without there being some sort of thought that there's going to be a path forward.
Yeah, look, I did a little bit of I want to say research, but it was really just me reading the Panthers forum. So I'm not sure if that's research, but I think what they were saying was that like he is a really good young player, but they'd made a decision to keep another
Yeah.
young fullback who's like similar age to him, maybe a year above. I can't remember his name is blanking me at the moment. Sorry, I can try and look it up later. But they decided to kind of prioritize him, which is why Adar was allowed to leave like during the contract. And that's not to say that like, Adar will end up being a better prospect. Like we don't know that. Like he looks really good and I'm really keen to see him play. But
Mm.
I like the thing I really like about this squad at the moment is that like there's no like besides Makasini, everyone has played a few seasons of first grade. Everyone's ready to hit that kind of purple
Yeah.
patch in terms of like their experience. And the thought of like having Bula, who we've developed like for a few years now, for him then to leave and then to throw like another rookie fullback where you kind of have to give him the
Mm.
grace period that we've already went through would be a little bit disheartening for me. Like if he's the best option, then that what can you do? But I would just love it if we just had like a kind of like everyone our core group had all played at least 3 NRL seasons
Yeah.
and like they're just ready to go in the top eight, like or to compete for the top eight. So it kind of worries me if we were just to rely on like a rookie fullback to come in and then like kind of solve to fill that hole that Bula left. And
Mm.
then as well, like he's not like Adard, he's not on a top 30 contract
Mm.
until his last year, which is 2028. So I'm not sure if that was like an indication of like how far, like he has to develop. Like I'm sure he'll end up playing some first grade this season or next season. So I'm sure that will happen. But I would just like I think we need someone with a little bit more experience to allow him to develop and kind of do his thing in reserve grade.
Hmm. Yeah, but it's a hard one, isn't it? And because you're talking about, well, you've definitely got Buller for 2026. Touch wood. We had Galvin for all of 2025 apparently, and how did that work out? But so you've got that other year to put him under the microscope, see how he's developing. This is Attard, of course, and you've got Buller at least for the 2026 season. So that does change the lay of the land. But I mean, on Buller, is he the guy that you really you say, write the number down on a piece of paper and we'll pay it to keep you. Is he that guy, or is it maybe not a great investment to break our bank on a guy that is, you could probably say is playing us for the every dollar he can get by the sound of it. I mean, we're going to go off what we read.
Yeah. Look, as I said before, I don't think that he's like a kind of Reece Walsh level
Mm.
player. So therefore, I don't think that he's, a player that you would write a blank check for. I think the value that you get him at is really, really important, which is why it's really sad that Shane Richardson is not here because I do have some concerns with the new CEO that like Richardson was so good at like salary cap management in terms of
Yeah,
like
we
a
had
value.
decades of experience that Sean Millicamp doesn't have in around the
Yeah.
league. Yeah.
And like someone like Bula, I think it's really important that we get him at the right price because like he's not a top tier fullback at the moment. Like obviously this time next year that could change and that
Yeah.
he could establish himself. But at the moment, like we really do need to get him at the right price. And that's another risk for like a more established team as well, like the Bulldogs, like because he like you wouldn't say that he's a surefire thing like Tedesco was at the Roosters to make them better. Like because Tedesco was already a superstar when he left us. So you've not got that guarantee with Bula that he's going to like kick on. So I don't know. It's really important. Like we just have to make sure that. And then I think when Richardson left, before he left, he said that like there's not much salary cap, assuming that like Luai takes up his options and if Bula stays. Like I think we're kind of on the brink of our salary cap spending at the moment. So we
Mm.
just have to like make sure that we don't like pay any like ridiculous overs for someone like Bula, even though like he is really important and we obviously love to keep him. Like, but it's just it's a tough one.
Well, last question for you on this topic is that can the new hierarchy, can the interim CEO, can the board, after what we went through in December, can they afford to lose a young player like Buller? Like the optics for the club, I think would be pretty bad, and I think that's got to be a factor. the Holman Barnes group and didn't come out smelling like roses. And then if we turn around and we lose one of our best players and one of them our most marketable and what's the word, popular players, then I think that's something that the club might not be able to really afford to do.
Yeah, like if it was just June Bula, I would 100% agree with you. Um, like as well as the fact that that CEO came out and said that, oh yeah, really confident he's going to stay. Like Benji thinks he's going to stay. Therefore, I'm confident. Like if he was to then sign with another club, it would be like, oh, like managements of old, where they're kind
Mm.
of just saying these things. Where like, yeah, we think he's going to stay, and then they end up leaving. So that would be really bad from that perspective. But I don't know about you, but like because of his manager, Isaac Moses,
Yeah.
I have real fatigue with these interactions. And like at the end of the day, like if his manager pulls him out to another club, then like what can we really do? Because like he's just done it so many times to us before where like he clearly just has a problem with the club. And if his management company is in Bula's ear, that like he should be somewhere else, then like there's not much we can really do. You know what I mean? So I think I would give the club a little bit of grace based on that.
Mm.
The fact that it's Isaac Moses, who clearly doesn't get along with Benji and clearly has alternative motives. Like if that was a big part as to why Bula left, then I think I would be a little bit more willing to give the club a little bit of grace because I'm just
Yeah.
over like Isaac Moses and these contract negotiations because like they just, yeah, it's not great for us at all.
Yeah, well, placing Declan's comments into perspective, there were the reports that he was, actively undermining Benji Marshall in the Galvin thing and talking about where your game can improve and it's not going to be here at the Tigers and all of those things. So I think fair comments, Declan, 100%. Well, we'll have to wait and see. New recruits for 2026. Not the biggest recruitment drive ever, but a few new faces coming in and some question marks over all of them, really, as to how they're going to go and how they're going to contribute. Is there one of these new recruits, Declan, that stands out to you as being somebody who you think is going to make a big impact? Who do you have the highest hopes for?
I think like in terms of who's going to come in and have the best impact, I think Kai Pierce Paul is going to come in, and I think he's going to be someone who makes a noticeable difference to that right edge in attack and defense. And it's really exciting because we have like two genuinely really good edges now on the left
Yeah.
and the right with his addition. And assuming that, Starford Toe is in form on that right edge, like we have two great kind of variations we can go to, which is going to open up a lot for us, hopefully. Because he's a really good player. I think it kind of got a little bit lost with the Knights with
Mm.
their struggles, but he's a hard worker defensively. He's probably not as much of a tackle breaker as some of like the other really good second rows in the comp are, but he's a really good. He can run a line. He can offload the ball, and he's a big upgrade on say Farth was like last year. So that can't go without saying. So I think that he's going to provide the biggest impact. I think in terms of like a smoky, I think someone like Javon Andrews
Mm.
is someone that I think could potentially be a smoky like either the midway point or towards the end of the year because I just have I have a worry that with our halves at the moment we have like a few good 5'8s
Mm.
and I'm not
No
really
clear
sure.
halfback. Yeah.
Yeah, no clear halfback, and I'm not saying Andrews is going to be a 7 because I think he's a pure 6 as well. But I think there is a bit of a question mark about the halves and like what our strongest halves are. I think Dewey and Luai are going to start the year there, and I think that makes sense. I agree with that. But I think there's room for either like Latu or Andrews just to take it if like injuries come up and
Mm.
like and then just like run with it. So I think and he's someone I really like. He's a big player. Like he comes from a touch background as well. He can kick goals. He seems to have a lot of upside about him. So I'm really keen to see how he goes.
Mm.
I think he'll start in cup, but I'm sure he'll play some first grade next year.
Yeah, there's big raps on Javon Andrews, definitely. And I like what you're talking about, Kai Pierce Paul helping on that right edge because it has been our weakness. And I anticipate that Kai Pierce Paul will play the entire year, in that on that right edge, and that would be good to have that stability. Funny, I was at the club and we'd had dinner and Foxtel was on and Fox Sports and they were showing old games and there was a game from 2006 at Penrith Park. And, we're the premiers, so we're a good team. And I'm sitting there and the sound wasn't on. I was just watching it and I don't remember the game per se, but what I remember, but watching it the other day when I was on the screen, Penrith just bustled us. Like it was the same physicality issue that I bang on about all of the time. So I'm hoping that the Kai Pearce Paul, who's a pretty big unit, not the most physically dominating player, but I think he'll add a bit more on that right edge. But I think Bunty Afoa might bring something there as well to add to the Fanua Poles and the Terrell Mays, getting my Mays mixed up. But I'm looking forward to seeing what Ethan Roberts brings. I think he has the potential to make an impact in the NRL. Big boy, big unit, big raps in the lower grades, and was on the fringe for the Roosters as well. And that's a pretty hard team to bust into. So I wouldn't be taking the fact that he didn't play any regular NRL for the Roosters as too much of a sign. But I think Ethan Roberts is one to watch in 2026, but there's no way of knowing until we just have to wait and see, Declan. The other one that's potentially, I don't know how much impact he's going to have, but there's a bit of curiosity around what Maverick Geyer is going to bring as well, Declan. But the trouble is that you sort of look at that back row and you go, well, Samuela on one side and KPP on the other. Where are these guys going to get a start? I'm thinking Ethan Roberts maybe potentially for lock.
Yeah, well, that would be ideal, wouldn't it, if one of them could like transition to the middle, because that's
Yeah.
something that I think we're really missing in terms, not missing, but like if you could just add one more like really solid prop, either like starting or on the bench, I think we'd be flying in terms of like we feel quite confident now. Yeah, and Ethan Roberts, he's a really big dude, so I think he could definitely transition
Mm.
to 13. He's a pretty good edge back rower though. I didn't see a lot of his highlights in his play in New South Wales Cup, so I'm not sure how he handled that level. But in Flag, he just seemed to be like a kind of like a cut above everyone else for his age group. He was like really physical. He ran great lines, had a bit of X factor as well, a few of his offloads. So I definitely agree. And like it's a good thing as well because the Roosters do have a lot of like really good young
Yeah.
forwards that like were probably just ahead of him in the pecking order, and that's why he couldn't get much game time for them. And it's a bit similar to Jacob Preston as well, who was at the Roosters, couldn't really get a game, and
Mm.
now he's at the Bulldogs, and like a French like origin
Yeah.
player. So like hopefully like it's a similar situation with us where we can get like kind of a diamond in the rough with him and see where it
Mhm.
goes.
It would be nice. It would be really, really nice. Yeah, like the forward pack is the backs a couple of question marks, but it's a forward pack that still has those question marks, and it's one of the things that I'm looking forward to seeing in the trials and in round one to see if Benji goes for sort of the tried and tested, or he's willing to mix it up and try some new things. There's a lot of question marks still to be answered that will be interesting to see. What about buy, sell, and hold? Should we dive into a round of buy, sell, and hold? We haven't done buy, sell, and hold for a while. I've got some interesting ones here for you. The first one, Declan, the long-term contract for Benji Marshall will help him relax in the role, thus making him a better coach.
Um, well, he didn't seem very relaxed in his
Yeah.
press conference. He seemed quite agitated. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna sell that because I think that although I think that it was the right thing to do because like the house was on fire.
Mm.
Like, what's the first thing you do? You put out the fire, and to do that to make the players
You throw
comfortable.
cash at the fire.
Yeah, exactly. You throw cash and more years at the fire. So yeah, I think that short term it was the right thing to do. Long term, like we have to see. At the end of the day, like if we end up with the spoon this season and it's a disaster, like he's going to be under pressure. That's
Yeah.
just the reality. So I think it's good. Like it's because like he is, with Richardson gone, like he is like full on the face of the club now.
Mm.
Whereas I think Richardson did a really good job of like kind of taking that public facing persona away from him. And
definitely.
like, I'm still so sad that he's gone. I can't believe he's not here
Yeah.
anymore. But now it really
I'm
is
still,
like,
I'm annoyed is the word that comes to mind.
yeah, but now like the training wheels are well and truly off for Benji.
Mm,
Like now, like he's the face of it. So like I don't think that this is gonna like help him relax. Like although like the secure like the financial security would like relax a coach. I don't think Benji's in it
mm,
for the money. Like I think he could probably get like
yeah.
similar money in an easier job on TV.
Mm, mm,
But and it is the West Tigers as well. So your heart rate's always going to be
mm.
up there. So I'm gonna sell that.
I'm going to throw out there that I think it could be accidentally end up being a good thing, and that is that he does emulate or try and emulate Wayne Bennett, and Wayne Bennett doesn't coach; he just sort of man manages, and his input apparently is pretty minor, really. He just makes sure the people going out on the field are well prepared and they've got a game plan, and he's not driving them all of the time, and he's not on top of them all of the time. So I think that could be a good thing. A lot of it's going to come down to, does he have the right support mechanisms around him? Do we have enough strategy and enough technical nous around him? Those sorts of things to find out if that's possible. The guys look up to him. There's no doubt about that. Benji's a draw card, and he seems to have a great relationship with the guys. So yeah, I think there's the potential there for this to maybe turn. If we're flipping the coin, for it to turn into a positive for us. But we'll have to again wait and see what happens. The other question that comes up out of that, Declan, is, I mean, is a coach a better coach when he's coaching for his future, or is he a better coach when he's got security and he's like, well, I've got 3 years here, I've got time to implement things, and I've got some breathing space.
Yeah, I think definitely a coach is better when like he's like got that long term contract because then he's not making like short term decisions at the expense of the long term
Mm,
interest. Because you see like a few coaches where like I need to sign this player like now because he's going to help me now, and it might not necessarily be the best long term, but like if they don't make the decision, they're not going to be there. But I think Benji's also like a different like situation because like he is just coaching because it's the Tigers. I don't see him. I couldn't
mm,
really see him, and like maybe now that's different. But when he came in, like it was just because it was that connection to the Tigers that he had before. So I think he'll always have that genuine like best interest of the club. I could never see him like making like a short term decision that hinders us in the long term because it suits him. I don't
mm.
think that's in his character. I think he cares about the club too much to do that, to be honest.
So it sounds like you've changed your answer. You're saying bye. It's going to be a good thing.
No, I think it's yeah, I think like they definitely needed to do it, like that's for sure, because it was clear
Yeah.
how much like the players are there just for him. Like they're not there to play for the Tigers. They're there to play for Benji.
Mm,
And like although that's not ideal because you'd rather them, be loyal to the club, it
yeah.
is what it is. That we needed to do what we needed to do to recruit those players to the club. So I think it was the right decision, but that's just hopefully long term we don't live to regret it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, it'll be the people that are writing the checks ultimately. Like it's going to hurt the most if they make a decision to move him on. He'll be
Uh,
getting plenty of his family will be getting lots of trips to Fiji for the next 20 years, courtesy of the
the home
Holman
and
Barnes
bonds.
group.
Yeah, well, when you make your bed, you have to lie in it. So
Exactly. Um, so what about this one for buy, sell, and hold? Jack Bird will not play NRL with West Tigers in 2026.
I'm gonna buy that. I just think that there was probably opportunities towards the end of last season where he could have played or he could have come off the bench, but it was clear that Benji just doesn't rate him. And now that they've brought kind of younger back rowers, like Maverick Geyer, like Roberts, Kai Pierce Paul is there. Say Farf is going to be considered as a middle. And he's like, we've also got like much stronger outside backs. I can't really see where Jack Bird's going to come because I think there's people that have come to the club that I would play ahead of him in the pecking order.
Yeah.
So I don't think he'll play in 2026 unless something goes horribly wrong.
Mm,
So
mm. No, I can't see where he possibly fits in unless we have, touch wood, a terrible injury toll. I mean, yeah, I think you're right. Adam Dewey, he's going to transition to the forwards in 2026, Declan.
Oh, I'm gonna sell that just because, like, on all the carnage where all the media articles were leaking left and right, there was a piece in the Sydney Morning Herald that he was actually training this off season in the halves.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take that information combined with the fact that we know that Latu is not going to be fit until round 3. I think Dewey's going to start the year at 7, and then like it's going to be up to Latu to like get a spot back from the 14 position. So I think he's going to play the majority of the year and a half this year, like the majority of the season at halfback. Like he might end up in the forwards towards the end of the year, but I think he'll play more games in half than he will in the forwards.
Okay. And last one, West Tigers will win 10 or more games this season.
I'm buying it. I'm an optimist.
All right. But I think you can still win 10 games and not make the finals, eh? Because that's what would that be? 26 points if you win 10.
I think 28 is usually the magic number that kind of you aim to get to.
West Tigers will win 12 games this season. Yeah, it's possible. That's 50%.
Oh, that was before the 3 buys. I don't know how that changes it. No, like that was when there was only 2 buys. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
If that factors in. I'm not very good at math, so maybe it doesn't matter at all. But
I'm pretty sure 11 times 2 is 22. And then you have 6 points from 3 buys. That's 28.
And well, you're in. I'll take your word for it, Joe.
We need to win 11 games.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm sure if we got all that math wrong, somebody will let us know. Don't forget, as always, join the conversation on the West Tigers podcast forum, and we will be back with another edition of the West Tigers podcast at some stage ahead of the trials. I am subscribing very much to the no news is good news philosophy at the moment. Yeah. We don't really want any more news until about a week away from the trials. That'll probably be okay.
Yeah, I think the West Tigers board is also meeting again in February, so there might be some news from that like might be worth discussing. Just it was like a hurricane. All kind of came and went, and like it was a horrible week. But yeah, it's really quiet now. So hopefully, during Bula stays. I wouldn't say that I'm like very confident, but I'm not panicking yet. If that makes sense.
Yeah. My thought is it's 51 he'll stay, 49 he'll go.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll wait and see. Thank you, Declan. Take it easy, and we'll catch you again soon.
Thank you.